Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world coming up. A gender divide emerging between young women and men under the age of 30. Research revealing that it's becoming a global trend, with young women becoming more progressive as their male peers become more conservative. I'll be talking about what this research reveals and how worried we should be with Kelly Beaver, the CEO of Ipsos UK and Ireland, and also Daniel Guinness, the Managing Director of Beyond Equality. And in a special edition marking International Women's Day, global research has revealed how an ideological gap is quickly emerging between young women under the age of 30 and their male peers. The women assuming a far more progressive stance on issues such as equality and immigration, while men are becoming increasingly conservative, especially when it comes to feminism. One country where the divide is becoming very much apparent is Germany. Our team on the ground sent us this report.
On their social networks, they're everywhere. Every day, young Germans are confronted with the sexism of influencers from the manosphere. It's impossible to escape the clips, whether they like it or not.
They tell you you're an alpha male, you're the strongest. I think that has a big impact on young men.
It causes a lot of damage to youngsters, especially the youngest.
They are called Bachelor Baby, Champ Life, or Maximilian Putz, and they present themselves as the true voice of masculinity. Katharina Wohlrab denounces these voices of toxic masculinity on her own social media platforms. She pokes fun at the misogynists. Her activism often earns her streams of hatred.
When I post videos with feminism as a keyword, it often happens that I find myself in the wrong bubble, and the comments are all the same, from men who question in particular the fundamental rights of women, such as abortion, for example.
There are regular attacks on equal rights. In 2023, a study found that 52% of Germans under the age of 35 considered that men were the boss at home. A widely publicised speech from the German extreme right rides a wave of deep insecurity linking inflation and immigration. At AfD meetings, they say they are mainly looking for stability.
We all have problems paying our bills. I wonder how I shall survive. That's why young people and so many ordinary Germans are turning to the AfD.
The extreme right is now deliberately targeting young men, according to this sociologist, a specialist in anti-feminism. The latest example is a video published by its leader for the European elections, which has had 2 million views.
He's trying to exploit young Germans with these videos in the privacy of their own rooms. It appeals a lot to young men because it gives them the idea that they've been robbed of a dominant position they've never known, but their fathers or grandfathers did have.
The tactic seems to be working. In the last regional elections, AfD doubled its results among first-time voters.
And joining me now from London is Kelly Beaver, the CEO of Ipsos UK and Ireland, which in partnership with King's College London and the Global Institute for Women's Leadership carried out research on the gender divide. The study surveying some 24,000 people aged 18 and over in 31 countries. Also from Amsterdam, Daniel Guinness, the Managing Director of Beyond Equality, a UK-based organisation working to transform attitudes among men and boys in an attempt to change unhealthy behaviours. Thank you again to both of you for giving us some of your time. Let me start, however, with you, Kelly. I understand how the gender split in views is starkest among the young when it comes to the term toxic masculinity. Could you tell me a little bit more about that and also about other key findings in the research?
Of course. So what we've found this year is that some of the trends that we've been following for the last few years have really started to accelerate. So we know the majority of people, almost 2/3 around the world, tell us that Gender equality is not going to be achieved without male allyship. But we have also seen a concerning rise, more so amongst young males than other parts of the population, in people saying, we think that gender equality has gone too far in our country and as a result it is disadvantaging males, but also saying that actually they think men are having to do too much in order to support gender equality. And those are some concerning statistics.
Daniel, let me bring you in. When we talk about toxic masculinity, for many that means the name Andrew Tate is not far behind. How does his name resonate among the boys and the young men that you and your team meet?
He's certainly been a really influential figure for the past probably 2 years. We've seen his influence grow from before then. But I'd say, fortunately, that influence is waning somewhat amongst the boys. I'd say one thing when you actually start thinking about a whole classroom or a whole country of young men is there's a really wide range of opinions. And what our facilitators have been finding within classrooms is that perhaps 2 years ago, there was a very large group of boys who were quite positive about him or bringing up his views in discussions. Now that's dropped down markedly, and there's far fewer who would be putting that forward as a serious point. There's more who are putting it forward as a way to get a rise out of their teachers or out of their classmates. They know it's somehow disruptive. But really key, though, is that there's still the same issues that are sitting behind that they're looking to get addressed. And there's still that appeal, whether it's coming from Andrew Tate or other sources, to what I would call kind of like junk food answers to some of those more fundamental questions for young men.
Kelly, what went wrong? And in your opinion, how much of this polarisation is driven by social media and how much by other factors?
I think we do have to put the findings that we're seeing in a broader context. So firstly, just general trend data around how young men feel about their future. We know 3 in 10 young men tell us that they believe that in 20 years' time, men will have worse lives than women. So they are worried about the future and how that might play out, and also the economic context and general political context too. So we know around many countries around the world, there are significant concerns about the economy. The largest issue on our What Worries the World index at the minute is inflation around many countries. Job security is also an issue in a number of countries. And then we are seeing rising populist sentiment too. And those things will be impacting on all parts of society, but perhaps young men in particular.
We were in South Korea last October reporting on how feminism has become public enemy number one thanks to its ultra-conservative government. The same is happening now in Argentina and also in other parts of the world where the far right is gaining support. So, Daniel, how worried should we be about this ever-widening chasm in the way that young men and young women view the world?
It's certainly very concerning, but we can still see that chasm as also being a symptom of some issues that are sitting beneath that. And I thought Kelly brought in some really important data. It's about actually how young people are seeing their lives and their futures. And the needs that we have to address at the moment are ones about their sense of belonging, their sense of security, their sense of meaning and purpose going forward, and skills such as how they're building healthier relationships and a healthy sense of self. If we can address those things, the chasm will quickly start to close.
And with Beyond Equality, how do you address those issues?
Yeah, whether we're working with teenagers or people in their 50s or 60s, one of the most crucial things is actually to open up a non-judgmental space. Because remember, what's happening at the moment is that people are getting indoctrinated, for want of a better word, by their social media accounts. And if they happen to fall into a bubble where all they're getting is one particular view, you really need to actually give them that space to talk about that information, that how they're seeing the world and how they experience the world. And then after that point, you're able to work through, point out some of the factual errors in that, and really actually give them a sense that they can create something better for themselves. But it's got to start from that point of non-judgment.
Kelly, in your opinion, what needs to be done to address this ever-widening ideological gap?
I think one of the challenges, certainly in the last decade, is that we have, in some ways, talked about gender equality as if it is a natural, progressive movement, which should really just keep moving. And what we have probably forgotten a little bit is about the need to bring male allies at all generations, all levels, with everybody on the same journey. And that means different types of stories and narratives about why this is of benefit to not just women, but also men, and what is in this for young men as a result of levelling up women and enabling gender equality. And so some of those narratives could probably be strengthened somewhat, because the moral case for gender equality is being now met by a lot of economic challenge and other priorities, and that's making it hard to cut through.
So finally, let me ask the both of you, should we be incredibly depressed by these findings, Kelly?
I think there's a lot of positives to take from it. We looked at women in leadership positions, how they're perceived as equal to men in terms of capability in leadership positions. But of course, we do see some concerning trends. I would say progress, but there's still an awful lot to do, and we need to make sure we've got a rounded narrative to take everybody along on this journey.
And Daniel, your thoughts?
Certainly there's broad concerns here, but what we can see from actually doing the work and building out these spaces for young men and older men is that they engage and they enjoy being part of this conversation. And if you can actually help see them see the linkages between their lives and the progress of women around them, they're on board. They want to be part of this.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Let me thank both my guests. Firstly, Kelly Beaver from Ipsos UK and Ireland, and also Daniel Guinness from Beyond Equality in the UK. Thank you again, both of you, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for in this edition. But in the meantime, we'd love to hear from you. So do reach out with your suggestions via Facebook, Instagram or X, of course, formerly known as Twitter. So until the next show, bye for now.